What is up, YouTube? Hey, today we're here with a vlog, and today we're talking about how I lost 2 jobs. Well, I ended up leaving 2 jobs because of my bipolar illness, right? It's crazy shit. These jobs were like $100,000 plus jobs that I had, and ended up leaving both of them because I was suffering from the effects of untreated, or maybe even treated sometimes, bipolar disorder, right? I'm gonna be making something to eat at the same time as I talk about this, but it's a pretty interesting story. So the first job was, I'm not gonna say the company, but it was a Fortune 500 company, very well-known company, and I worked at this job for about 2.5 years. Treated, but what ended up happening was, let me see if I can find this. As I started progressing in my work, I started having symptoms, stress-induced symptoms of bipolar disorder. And what that looked like was that I would be having manic episodes, or I would have a manic episode at work for like a week, maybe even longer than that, 2 weeks. And I'm on fire, man. Like I'm taking projects, I'm doing stuff, I'm in a million places. I'm the most productive I've ever been, right? And I'm in a good mood all the time, and I'm not sleeping as much, and I'm going to the gym, and I'm basically just doing everything that I want to do. I'm taking a lot of projects on. And after that, I started to crash, man. And what that crash looked like for me was delusions, grand delusions. So delusions, like, man, I was thinking like, people were out to get me. I'm not gonna go deep into these type of delusions because they don't make a lot of sense to me, but I was basically becoming more and more stressed out. And I started having, like, what is that called? Panic attacks. I had a panic attack in the shower, and after I would have a panic attack, I would have these delusions, these crazy delusions that like people were out to get me, and things like that. I was being followed by helicopters, etc., etc. And this was on while I was on the medication. Then I would get like really depressed, and was like, dang, if I'm experiencing these symptoms on this medication, which I already don't like taking my medication. Oh, these are gonna be good. I already don't like taking my medication. Then why don't I stop taking my medication? That's a good idea, right? Because a lot of people with bipolar disorder have a problem staying on their medication, right? So ended up stop taking the medication, and that was the worst thing I think I even did. Like, that's the worst thing I did on top of everything else. It was kind of like a personal cry for help. So ended up stop taking the meds, and of course delusions got way worse. Like, I was taking days off from work, not able to get out of bed, just didn't care about a lot of stuff, I think I was just really in a big depression, and it got to the point where I contemplated suicide, and got to the point where I was hearing things that were not there. You know what I mean? Like, I was hearing sounds. I was thinking people were in my apartment, and they weren't there, and I was living alone when this happened, so it was even like scarier, you know what I mean? And ended up taking myself to the hospital. And this is before, like, I told my manager that I was having issues, like stress-induced issues. At the time, they didn't know I had bipolar disorder, but I was telling them, like, I was having stress-induced issues, and she was like saying she was gonna help, but there wasn't a lot of help being, happening. Like, my workload wasn't really getting lighter. They were just like, you're an all-star. You can continue. Let me try to set this down. You can continue to do it, right? But once I quit my meds, it started to like spiral out of control. And it got to the point where I was hearing things, and I was contemplating taking my own life because of that. So I ended up turning myself into the hospital. Was in the hospital for like a week, you know what I mean? Was in the hospital for like a week, but I didn't come back the same. I didn't come back the same person. I wasn't, like, I had crashed, when I was in the hospital. So I was like, I think I was on medication at this time, but I was like really lethargic. I was really like I had like a really, like I hit a brick wall. I don't know what happened, and I couldn't really do much of anything. I could barely even dress myself. So after that happened, I went on FMLA, for I think it was like 6 weeks. But I ended up leaving the company because when I came back, they put me right back in the same situations. Like I didn't lose any projects, and I saw that what was happening before was starting to happen again. So I kind of realized the limits of my own. I realized the limits of my own mental limitations, I guess you would say, and it was really disheartening to me because I did a lot to get to where I was. Went to school, went through a lot to get there, and I felt like I lost it all. And this happened again. I'm not gonna really go into the second thing, but with the second job, I did the same thing, man. Like I had the same kind of issues, but the whole thing was I was unmedicated the whole time. From when I got the job, I was manic, and I just stayed unmedicated the whole time for about like maybe close to like 3 weeks. Same thing, hit a fucking wall, went back into the hospital again. You know, uh, this time it was like kind of like not, like I volunteered to go, but I didn't think I was going to be hospitalized. Like, I was still having like off and on delusions. I wasn't taking my meds like I was supposed to. And I went to go get like daytime service, like daylight service. I guess it's like a service where you can like just go into therapy for the day and get out. But I ended up getting kept for like another 3 days, 4 days, and I was in a really rough hospital. And I was really disheartened, y'all. Like, I don't know, I was hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I thought, I'm never gonna be able to recover, and I still quite haven't. Like, this was a while ago. This is months ago. I am taking medication. I am on my meds and stuff, but this is. I thought I was never going to be able to recover. And even now, I don't feel like I'm the same person that I was before all this happened, and it's kind of scary to me because I don't really know what the future holds for me as far as like dealing with this illness and where I'm at with it. But I just thought I would share it. I'm currently alone. I had a like manic episode around Christmas. Left my girlfriend. All kinds of stuff. So it wasn't really great. I could say that I was cycling a lot more than I usually was, and like I said, now it's been okay. But when I get like really stressed out or I start having symptoms of this illness, which really sucks. But that's how I that's how I left both of my jobs due to having bipolar illness. All right, if you like this kind of content or just me speaking to you, this is a very small channel. A thumbs up goes a long way. I'll keep candid videos open, and I'll continue to discuss certain subjects in my life. But this is me. Peace.